In this video, we're going to dive into the story of my first Steam game, which I spent a year developing and finally released. I'll be answering the question everyone's been asking. How much did you earn? And I'll break down all the details for you. Throughout the journey, you'll witness how I dealt with numerous setbacks, moments of excitement, burnouts, and instances where I felt like giving up. Hey there, it's NashDev. I'm an indie game developer, and I single-handedly crafted Bowerwhelm. I share my game development journey on YouTube, breaking down the whole process of how I bring these games to life. A while ago, I quit my job and feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. It was a bit depressive situation, which led to a huge break in video uploads. But hey, I'm doing much better now, and back with a fresh spirit. So, without further ado, let's jump into the story behind the creation of Bowerwhelm. Like every indie developer, my dream since childhood was to create computer games that everyone would love to play. I constantly participated in game jams to enhance my game development skills. Later, a local mobile game company discovered me, and I started working for them as a game designer. Becoming a full-time game designer was incredibly cool, but as the years passed, that excitement faded and turned into exhaustion. I started to hate my job, and it was called burnout. Realized that the company I had been working for wasn't contributing to any of my dreams. I guess getting back to my enthusiastic self, who used try making games, would make me happier. So, without thinking about the consequences, I decided to develop a game in my spare time from work. I was familiar with 3D modeling and 2D drawing, but didn't know how to make a proper game by myself. That was not a big deal because the decision was made. In normal, someone who doesn't know about programming would enroll in online game programming courses first, and then start their project after learning some, right? Well, it wasn't like that for me. I was so obsessed with making a game that lack of programming skills didn't appear to be a hindrance. So, I quickly set up a Unity project and wanted to see if I could make a simple game. I downloaded a ready-to-use FPS controller from the asset store, and voila, the foundation of my game was ready. Look at this, I can move around, and I did it myself. Isn't it awesome? This really gave me a confidence boost, and started thinking about what else I could add to it. The archery mechanics from Minecraft was quite fun, and I thought, why not make a balloon popping game? I changed the name of my project from My Project 3 to Shoot Balloons with Bow. This was no longer just a casually developed project. This will be the world's greatest balloon shooting game. I quickly did some research on how to code shooting in C# on Google, and now I could shoot projectiles from the center of the screen. I had no idea how to pop the balloons, and didn't worry about that for now. The red sphere I placed here was temporarily keeping the place of a balloon. Now, all I needed to do was to make these projectiles destroy the balloon. I spent a day researching on Google to figure out how to do it, and yes, after a few lines of boring code, projectiles started to destroy the balloon. I swiftly modeled a bow and arrow, added it to game, got rid of the prototype map, and added a new white map. I wrote a simple tutorial to introduce the game controls, programmed the tutorial mechanics, which was a serious challenge for me, and designed the map for tutorial. It took me weeks to finish the tutorial, making progress only by a small amount each day, because every day during lunch breaks at work, I was asking my colleagues about the things I couldn't understand in C#. The tutorial code was a long and painful process for me, but it was the first time I had programmed a system without copying from somewhere else. This was a huge achievement for me. During this period, thanks to my work buddies, I began reading and understanding the codes of mobile games we developed at my full-time job. While initially struggling to even conceptually grasp what they speak of, over time, I slowly started to understand the basics of programming. None of what I'm telling you happened overnight. For 3 months straight, after going to work every day and putting in 8 hours of work, I spent the remaining 4 hours of my day by working on the game named Shoot Balloons with Bow. Even for something as simple as throwing a projectile, I could spend 3 to 4 hours on Googling because, believe me, I was working on something that I had absolutely no idea about. The time I spent developing this game was actually stolen from my family and loved ones because I only had 4 hours to spare for them. I'm sure full-time workers can relate. Learning something after work, already tired and in need of rest, was truly challenging. Gradually, I started to lose my mental health, so I limited myself to just 1 hour a day. According to my plan, I would spend time with my family and loved ones after leaving work. Just an hour before going to bed, I would continue developing the game. At that exact moment, an incredible game on Steam started gaining popularity: Vampire Survivors. With the exhaustion my mental breakdown brought, every night I lie down in bed, grab a gamepad and play Vampire Survivors for 1 hour. The game was brutally simple and fun, and I was playing it instead of working on my game. Of course, this became an excuse, and Shoot Balloons with Bow was put on the shelf. Actually, on some days, even if just for an hour, I wanted to continue developing the game, but 1 hour was so short that I couldn't make any progress. Moreover, I didn't even know what to do with the game. Using excuses like this, I played Vampire Survivors every night for 2 months without a break, even on weekends. For 2 months, I silently blamed myself for making no progress at all. Why did I quit pursuing my dream of creating video games? I was in need of an ignition to start working again. One day, while randomly browsing Instagram, I stumbled upon a post announcing that the creator of Vampire Survivors had earned a lot of money. The said amounts mentioned were unbelievable. In my opinion, Vampire Survivors was a drastically simple game, and the fact that it made that much money blew my mind, just like it did for all of you. $19.2 million in gross revenue was an amount I could never earn in my entire life. As you all probably thought, it was the ignition. I immediately set out to adapt shoot balloons with bow into a roguelike genre. Everything would be straightforward. I wouldn't even bother making balloons pop. I would simply add a health counter to the existing red spheres and the enemies would be ready. Taking the time to add a skill system and an experience system, I found that developing this genre was so easy that just these two systems made the game playable. I let everyone in my life test out the game. My girlfriend found it overwhelming while playing, and whoever I let play the game said the game was overwhelming and needed a fix for that. So what I did for it is, instead of adjusting the difficulty of the game, turned this crisis into an opportunity and decided to make the game even more challenging. And I found a name for it: Bowerwhelm. From now on, no one could say that the game was too overwhelming because that was the whole point. After giving it a proper name, I could start sharing devlogs on a YouTube channel. All I want was to make at least some effort to promote my game because I knew that quietly developing and releasing the game wouldn't lead to financial success. So, I created this channel and uploaded my first devlog video. However, I couldn't keep up with this for a long time because I was constantly getting stuck while developing the game, and 99% of my screen recordings were spent doing Google searches for programming and failed attempts. Even programming games was new to me, and on top of that, I needed to edit devlogs. It was too much for me, so I took a break from it and focused on my game. It's really fun to tell my development story by creating videos, but I didn't have enough time to do it. But hey, that phase is over now, and I'm back. So, if you like this video, you can subscribe to the channel to see more in the future. Some of my friends who test the game were serious roguelike gamers, therefore I had to pay much more attention to their feedbacks. Overall, they really loved the core mechanics of the game, but when I mentioned sending it to Steam, they told that the game needs a bit more depth in terms of progression. Personally, I thought my first game could do without too much progression mechanics, because you know, it was my very first game and it doesn't need it to be perfect. My lazy subconscious was messing with me to avoid programming upgrades and deck building systems, but at the end of the day, I was quite afraid of receiving negative reviews on Steam. That would demoralize me a lot. After all, since all my friends who tested it loves me, so they wouldn't give a demoralizingly bad review. But the players will buy the game with their hard-earned money, and their reviews would be brutally honest. Indeed, when I check all genres on Steam, roguelike games were at their peak in terms of replayability. So, I quickly added a skill evolution system. Now, you could spend the money you earned for evolution, added permanent upgrades and designed simple interfaces, added achievement system so, as you played, you could unlock new skills, integrated Steam achievements, designed maps, program a difficulty system. After all these improvements, when I took the game to the same friends for test again, they played it for hours without any breaks, so the game was ready to publish. After a 1 year, it was finally complete and ready for release. I spent days testing to see if there was any bug in the game and then uploaded the final version to Steam. It felt incredibly cool when I clicked the submit for review button. The review process for the game took 2 days. I was publishing a game on the platform where I've been playing games since childhood. Perhaps it would become a hit and change my life. Anything was possible. Approval for review came through, and I woke up to the news that my game was released on March 12th. My entire day was spent refreshing the sales page. Each time I refreshed, the game sold 3 more copies, and it sold 67 copies on the first day, which was incredible for me. People from around the world were buying and playing the game I created. In the initial Steam reviews, everyone was recommending the game. On the second day, it sold another 70 copies, reaching a total of 137. By selling 50 more copies on the third day, a total of 187 copies been sold. If sales continued like this every day, this game could become a passive income for me. That was looking like a total indie dream. On the evening of the 4th day, I checked the sales page and the numbers were as same as the yesterday. I couldn't believe it. Sales shouldn't stop suddenly, they should at least decrease gradually. So, I refreshed the page again and I quickly did some research on forums and saw that many unsuccessful indie games had the same sales pattern like this. In other words, their sales were suddenly stopped after a few days. And that was the moment when I realized that my game is another unsuccessful indie game. Everyone loved my game, and playing it was truly fun. The fact that my game was appreciated by people had given me such confidence, and I thought financial success would naturally follow this appreciation. This turned out to be a profound misconception and taught me a crucial life lesson. It was satisfying for me to get appreciated for making a good game, but financial success and intellectual satisfaction are actually unrelated things. In the real world, not everything that brings us intellectual satisfaction is financially rewarding. What it takes to be satisfied with our work is different from what it takes to achieve financial success. In the corporate world, someone who doesn't even know how to use Gmail might earn a higher salary than you, because in the real life, excelling at your job and achieving financial success are two different things. In earning a high salary is often more about effective self-promotion than simply doing the excellent work. It works in the same way for selling video games. If you want to make your game sell millions of copies, you have to promote your game 1 million times, even if it's not good at all. Remember the higher salary guy? Anytime you're afraid to promote your game. Fortunately, financial success isn't everything. Now there is a significant difference between with NashDev, the person who released Bowerwhelm, and NashDev, who had never made a game before. He has $509 more, good grasp of game programming, can develop games independently, understands the importance of promotion in terms of game marketing, learned how not to make games in a hard way, an expert in managing limited time, and can now distinguish between financial success and intellectual satisfaction. NashDev even knows how to create devlogs for YouTube. And here we come to the end of the video. If you are someone in the journey of being a self-taught indie developer like me, you can join my Discord channel from the link in the description. I will give away free Bowerwhelm keys to the first 200 people who come to Discord server.